بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I pray, inshallah, that all of you are well. Inshallah, we're going to continue our discussion that we were having yesterday. And that was the title, no, that's not that title. I don't know how that got messed up. Correcting my own words. La ilaha illallah. Okay, that was it. Sorry. Not following a madhhab is a madhhab. So this is part 2. I want to say something before I continue on this topic. Everyone speaks based upon their own experiences and context, right? There is no person on the face of the earth who, when they have a discussion or when they talk about something or something they deem important, that thing is not related to some experience they have or a context in which they are living. It's just not true, right? So a lot of the content that I focus on, that we talk about on the Black Imams Roundtable, is based upon our experience and the context we live in. You should always understand that, right? So sometimes what I may be talking about based on my experience and my context may not be relevant to you. So keep that in mind. If that's not your experience, that doesn't mean it's not somebody else's experience. Y'all follow me? So when you listen to people, always keep that in mind. They're speaking from their experience, their context, right? So just keep that in mind. It's very important when you're listening to the things I talk about. And my message is to primarily on this platform, my focus is the African American Muslim community. That's my focus. That's the target audience of whom I'm talking to. That doesn't mean that the information is not beneficial or needed by other than African American Muslims. However, we share, many of us, among African American Muslims, or you can say Black Muslims, whatever you like, right? We share certain experience and context that makes the content that we speak about extremely relevant and important, and I would go to say necessary for us to understand Islam and to develop in our understanding of Islam. This should be well understood, because other than that, sometimes the conversation is not going to make sense to you, right? So that part is extremely important. Um, and you will never really understand how we feel until you walk in our shoes, experience our experience, live in our context, right? So that's very important. Do you know how it is, how it feels for someone to try to make you a slave? Do you know that feeling? Literally, someone is trying to make you a religious, a mental, and ultimately a physical slave without calling it slavery. Do you know that feeling? It's a strong feeling. The one who is subject to that type of indoctrination, propaganda, is going to feel totally different for the one who is a part of the people who are engaged in that activity. It's not going to feel the same, right? I'll give you a discussion, and it's it's related to the topic, but not directly related, but it's connected. I was talking to someone that was an African American Muslim, an organization, and they wanted to cooperate with Masjid Muhammad. And so we were talking about the terms of cooperation. And you know what they said? Just like natural. Um, they said, we're willing to allow you to be independent. We're willing to allow you to be independent. For them, that's normal. It wasn't even offensive to them. And we were supposed to be honored by that. Yes, they're going to let us have our own thoughts, our own, ideas. And long as they approve of it, we're independent. But you know what a lot of us would have said? And we say it? MashaAllah, at least we are part of you. That's what a lot of us say. And that's why they say that stuff. Because a lot of us, unfortunately, would say, MashaAllah, at least we are part. Right? So that's a context. When we speak, we're dealing with stuff like that. Right? When we speak, we're dealing with a mentality like that that's constantly being pushed at our community from various fronts. So understand that. All right. I'm just giving you a context for some of our discussions. Because people always ask, why you talk about the stuff you talk about? And that's why. And it's designed, hopefully, to educate and awaken the giant in you. Right? Right. All right. So with that being said, let's go back to our subject. So yesterday we were talking about the concept that not following a madhhab is a madhhab. So I intentionally do certain things. I'm sharing this with you too. I do things my own way. So the ones who try to force me to follow their way are always upset with me. I do it intentionally, right? Until we are confident enough to do things the way we believe they're best, that suits our needs and our understandings. It's done in a way that we would benefit. I'm opposed the way that people have enforced on us that doesn't benefit us. I do it intentionally, right? So someone would want me, why don't you do it this way? Why don't you say Quran and then a hadith? Then I said, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to talk to my people. I just want to talk to my people. I don't want to do it the way you want me to do it in a way that suits your agenda. I ain't doing it. My people understand what I'm talking about because that's who I'm talking to. They understand exactly what I'm saying. And I'm going to talk to them in a language that they understand. That is no ambiguity of what I'm saying. And all of it will be based on the Quran and Sunnah, even if I never say a verse or a hadith. Even if I never say a verse or a hadith, everything I'm saying will be based on the Quran and the Sunnah. There's a difference from quoting the Quran and the Sunnah and understanding the Quran and the Sunnah. There's a big difference between the two. There's a big, huge difference between the two. And most of the time, people quoting Quran and Hadith out of context. And that out of context thought is given validity because they mention a verse of the Quran or a hadith. Do you get it? Do y'all follow that point? It's something you should understand. People use Quran and hadith to say Allah is sitting on a throne in heaven. People use Quran and hadith to say Allah moves from one part of the upper world through the lower world. People use the Quran and hadith to say Allah got feet, 2 feet, and put it in the hellfire. And they quote Quran and Sunnah, but that stuff has nothing to do with Islam. But at the same time, there are people of truth who would utter something that's true, that's not mentioned in the Quran and the Hadith, but it's the essence of the Quran and the Hadith. Like Allah exists without a place. There's no verse in the Quran that says Allah mawjudun bila makan. There is no hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that says Allah mawjudun bila makan. But that principle is firmly rooted in the Quran and the Sunnah. You follow? Firmly rooted in the Quran and the Sunnah, and by the consensus of Islamic scholarship. Yet, it doesn't appear in the Quran or the Sunnah in those words. But those words are the very essence of the Quran and the Sunnah. You got my point? Did y'all follow that? Because for me, understanding is more important than quoting. For me, the way I approach things, understanding is more important than quoting. So can we put that up? Understanding is more important than quoting. Can we copy that? You need to understand that very well. I asked one of our people the other day, I said, can you convincingly refute the person who contradicted the creed of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah with confidence? I was specifically talking about Al-Wahhabiyya. He's an Azhari. And he looked at me like, why would you ask me that? I said, because I want to know. Do you feel confident standing in defense of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah without no compromising the principles, no trying to avoid the discussion, and handle it? Right? And he had to think about it. And then he answered, I believe I could. I asked you what you believe. Can you? Right? No, do it. When you really understand, I know you could quote. You're a graduate from Al-Azhar. I know you can quote all the stuff. Do you understand enough that you're confident when you're dealing with the issues? It's a big difference. I know you can quote. I've read, I can't count the number of books we've read together and what you've read with teachers and our teachers and different stuff. I know that part. Have you understood the material well enough that you're confident to go into a real discourse? Right? I know you understand it for yourself, but are you confident to explain it to someone else? Right? That's the difference between understanding and quoting. So for us, we're good. We have been good, many of us, at quoting, but we don't understand. And that's why when we're faced with deviant ideas, we can't confront them. We start making excuses to get out of that situation. The thing that amazes me about this, and I'm a little bit off the subject, but it's my scattered thoughts, so I have that right, right? How are you a Sunni, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, with the rich tradition you have, the level of scholarship and books and information, and you're shaky in front of an innovative creed that has only been spread in the last 200 and something years? What's wrong with that picture? I don't get it. Right? You have this rich tradition. As I mentioned yesterday, tens of thousands of scholars in every school, and you shaky. That means you don't understand. That doesn't make any sense to me at least. How are you shaky? Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. It's like, any of you watch basketball? How many of you like basketball or watched basketball before? Professional basketball, NBA. I'm trying to make analogy so you get it. I want you to understand, right? How many of you like NBA? You watch or have watched? You know I like to engage, so we're going back and forth here. You got to answer. Okay. This is the equivalent. And it really is not the equivalent, but just to by way of to give you something to bring the concept to your mind. You have as your players Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right? That's your team. Also, you got David Robinson, Akeem Olajuwon, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Shaq, right? That's your squad. You're playing against an 8th grade AAU team. Do you have any doubt you're going to lose? That's your squad. Y'all going up against an 8th grade AAU team. And you walk on the court, we might lose this game. That's what it's like when you're comparing Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, right, to these deviant ideas, right? But some of us are on a team like that, and we get in front of the AAU 8th graders and like get nervous. Do y'all follow what I mean? Right. So that's when you understand, when you're talking about Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the gap of expertise and skills is far greater with the ulama, the scholars of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, compared to the people we're talking about. Right? All right. And let me move back. So when we're talking about the established madhahib of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and for us to make sure we understand, in Aqidah, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah are who? Which madhahib? As we learn, not as someone's trying to force to us, as we learned, who are Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah in Aqidah? That's for y'all to answer. Say it with your chest, as they say. Say it with your chest. I said Aqidah, Talib, inshallah, not fiqh. This is going to be a process, but inshallah ta'ala, in time, it's going to be like drinking the coffee in the morning. Oh, I discovered mushroom coffee has to grow on you. If you drink regular coffee, mushroom coffee takes time. It's going to have to grow on you. I'm finally getting I'm beginning to like this stuff. It has to grow on you, right? All right. So Ash'ari or Ash'ira and Maturidi, that's Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, right? Without no conditioning of the statement. Right? No conditioning of the statement. And I say that for a reason. In fiqh, who are Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah? These are the madhahib of Ahl Sunnah. In fiqh, they are who? Don't leave out the Hanbalis. Okay. All right. And lastly, in the science of spirituality, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah are the people of Tasawwuf, Sufism. So we put that in spirituality at Tasawwuf. The Sufis are from Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, right? The people of Tasawwuf, no doubt. That's Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. When we talk about Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, we're talking about the vast majority of the Muslim nation, right? The vast majority of the Muslim nation, since the establishment of these schools, al-madhahib, right, have followed them with an unbroken chain of narration from the time of the Imams to our time today. Do y'all understand that? Like, we're not talking about something that just was some great idea a couple hundred years ago. The vast majority of Muslims, Jamhur al-Ummah, right? As-Sawadul A'zam, the vast majority of Muslims globally, historically, have followed this way. The most illustrious, knowledgeable, pious scholars in Islamic history followed this methodology. The most relied upon books in every field of Islamic knowledge were written and authored by people who followed this methodology. Is that clearly understood? Like, I need you to understand that. And I'm looking at understanding, not just quoting. I want you to understand some stuff, right? We're not just quoting, we're trying to understand. And because of the lack of access, right? Because of the lack of access, many of us don't realize that. They actually think we're talking about equal things when we're not. Those who deviate from that methodology are nowhere in number compared to those who follow al-Madhahib, right? Not in any matter, even with all the money, even with all the propaganda, even with all the support from non-Muslim countries, they still don't match the historic and global following of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Do y'all understand that point? So, I want to look at it just to walk you through this slowly. I'm going to give you a word. Can everyone copy that? It's very important. This stuff may seem simplistic, but it's quite complicated for a lot of us. I don't know why, but I do. Let me take that back. Because of lack of information, lack of access. So that's why it seems complicated. So can we copy that? Everyone copy that. So we learn an Arabic word, right? Al-ulama are the scholars. There is such thing as scholars. You do realize that, right? Because the way we act, the way we talk, you would think there's no such thing as scholars. You would think everyone's a scholar. And scholars are not the same as common people, right? They're not the same. I'm gonna give you another term. Copy that word. Al-awam. Laymen, common people. They're not scholars. That's us. And most of the people we know. right? You need those two terms. Most of the people you're talking to, including myself, are from the second class, not the first class, right? Right? Most of the people you see on the internet, most of the people you engage with on a regular basis are from the second class, not the first class. So that means when I'm talking to the local imam, I'm talking to a layperson, not a scholar, 99% of the time. I'm talking to a common person, not a scholar. Even if they call that common person sheikh. Do y'all have that? Are y'all following me there? Listen, 99% of the time, when I'm talking to even the imam in the masjid, I'm talking to a common person, a layman, not a scholar, even if they call that lay person sheikh. Do you understand that? We have to peel back some of the mistakes because it leads to other mistakes. So you see the imam and you say sheikh so and so. 99% of the time, sheikh so and so is a layman. You just don't know it. But really, in Islamic knowledge, in Islamic scholarly terminology, the person's a layman. Right? So that means something we have to discover. We have to discover the level in some kind of realistic comprehension where the line divides between a layman and a scholar. We need to learn that, right? There is a point where that line is drawn in the sand, where you go from layman to scholar. We need to have a concept of that, or they say a visual, you know? We need to get that. And I would tell us that first, we need to know what a scholar should basically have knowledge about, right? And then from there, build upon that. Like, that means we have to have some understanding of what is Islamic knowledge in order to know, does this person possess it or not? It's not an ego competition, right? Either you have it or you don't. We do that in every other thing that we know, from a novice to a journeyman. There's a point where you start off as a novice, right? An apprentice, and then you go to a skilled journeyman. There's a point that is crossed. Y'all follow me? Okay. So I like to give a general picture for us that all the scholars of the Madhaahib, this base knowledge that they have. And I'm going to just give you some. They are familiar with the primary Islamic sciences at an advanced level. the field of al-aqidah, the field of al-fiqh, the field of at-tasawwuf as a primary practical basis. They are familiar with those sciences at an advanced level. What do I mean by advanced level? They are aware of the authorities, the scholarly authorities in that field, and the relied upon books in that field, and their chains of narration to those books and to those scholars, at minimum. At minimum. That's a minimum expectation of a scholar. Do you hear what I said? Please write it. At minimum, we're talking about the primary sciences first. Ilm al-aqidah, ilm al-fiqh, and ilm al-tasawwuf. That person is familiar at an advanced level of the leading scholars in that field of study, the relied upon books in that field of study, and their chains of narration to those scholars and those books. That's like a minimum for a scholar. Minimum. It's details, but we're just talking about minimum stuff. Y'all got that? Minimum. Then we go to other sciences. In terms of what we're talking about, because these are practical things. You must believe, you must practice, and you develop a state. Then we're going to go to sciences that are means to you doing that. So, in the Quran and its related sciences, including tafsir, the scholar, likewise, at an advanced level, is familiar with the leading scholars in those fields, the relied upon books, and their chains of narration to them. You can keep that concept for everything I'm going to mention. That's how we're going to start separating laymen from scholars. Quick. It's very fast, right? So that's Quran. Its related sciences, including explanation, tafsir. So when you're talking to a scholar, they're going to be able to tell you who are the leading scholars in the field of Quranic recitation in each time. What are the different styles of recitation? Who are the books that talk about that? And the chains of narration to those scholars in those books. In the science of ulum al-Quran, the sciences of the Quran, who are the leading authorities in that field? What are the relied upon books, and what are our chains to those books? In tafsir, who are the reliable authoritative scholars that the nation has accepted their work in the field of Quranic commentary? What are those reliable books? What are the chains of narration to those books? That's what that look like. That's a scholar. At the minimum level we're talking about. Do y'all follow that? Move it to hadith, the same thing. So hadith, the basic books of narration of hadith, the books of the sciences of hadith, the books of commentary of hadith, the books of narrators, the ilm al-rijal, the books of weighing and criticizing those narrators, the books of hidden defects, all that related in the field of hadith and many other things. He's familiar at an advanced level to the leading scholars in that field, to the leading relied upon books, and his chains of narration to them. This is a scholar we're talking about. We're not talking about a layman, we're talking about a scholar. Move to the Arabic language, the different aspects and parts of the Arabic language. He knows the leading scholars in that field at an advanced level, the leading relied upon books in that field, and his chains of narration to all of them. Right? And that's just by way of example. We can go on to more science. He knows that in about 12 different sciences of the religion. If we counted them, enumerated them, that type of knowledge at a base level, he's aware of that in at least 12 different sciences. I'm just going to ask, just say, are you following me? Or say clear. Maybe that's where I can know. Remember, we're online, so it's kind of difficult to make sure you follow me. Just say clear if you understood what I just mentioned. Just put clear. Just type clear. So now we're talking scholar. At that level, at that minimum level, we're going to separate for our purposes of understanding that the person who ain't like that's not a scholar. I didn't say they weren't intelligent. I didn't say they didn't have knowledge. I said you ain't a scholar. There's a big difference. Do y'all follow me? So now, at that level, that's the beginning level for us to identify some degree of scholarship. We have to have something to, right? We have to something to weigh you for any of us. Like, how am I going to know this person's a scholar or not? At the base level, he's a scholar. This should be in his scholarship. What is that going to do? It's going to help you navigate the field of study. And when you combine them, the religion of Islam, right? There's no such thing as default scholarship. Can we put that up? There is no such thing as default scholarship. No such thing. Either you're a scholar or you're not. Period. There's no default scholarship. Right? There's no such thing. So, for us, that's been the habit in our experience, in our context, a bunch of default scholarship. And that default false claim of scholarship has been taken as a standard and real to the extent that it comes to challenge real scholarship. It's insane when you think about it. It's really insane when you really realize what's happening and you understand it. You're like, this is crazy. To the point, me and one of our brothers, we have this talk. He always telling me what he think, right? And he's a student of knowledge, right? Or seeker. I say, stop telling me that. For you, we old heads can get away with that. For you, I want to know the ulama who said that, the books they mentioned that in. Tell me where you got that from. Tell me the ruling. Don't tell me the sources. Tell me you are a student of knowledge on your way to scholarship. You're not allowed to do that. And he'd be looking at me like, this guy. I'm like, nah, we can't keep doing that. It's expected when we don't know no better. It's a given. But we know better now. You got to do better than that. You're the next generation. You can't afford to do that. Don't come just giving me some weird internet opinion. Nobody want to hear it. Go hit the books. Right? Do you follow my point? You're at the level to do research. You have to do it. We can't keep with the fake scholarship. If we don't have the ability, we don't have a choice. But you have the ability, you got to do better. Right? This is important. Right? And the more I think about it, if we're ever going to advance as a people, we have to break these barriers. And if, in us, we should be like the grandpop or great grandpop who just got out of slavery and is determined that his kids and grandkids, they're going to get an education, they're going to have a good life, and they're never going to return to the state we were at. That's where we should be right now. Maybe we can't read and write, but our great grandkids are going to be scholars and masters of different fields of studies, because we're going to work hard to push them that they're not like us and never to return. That's what our forefathers did in slavery. They fought hard for us to be somewhere where it was impossible for them. We have to feel the same way. I saw something, and I don't want the brother to get mad at me, but I was mad at him. He said something, and it just drove me crazy. I was offended, honestly, right? But I wasn't offended. I was offended at our mindset. He was talking about a foreign kid. And he said, when the foreign kid was a kid, when you grow up, I want you to come back and teach us. I said, what? Look out. I was saying, just think of our mind. You in the heart of the Black community talking to a foreign kid saying, when you grow up and go study, you come back and teach us. Think of that mind. And not the individual. Just think of our mind like that, because that's been our case. That's how we be. That's how we think. Many of us think like that. And guess what? You wasn't the only one thinking like that, because that became true. Wasn't the only one thinking like that, because that actually became a reality. Think about that. And you know that reality is like a 25-year journey from that point to the point that that child actually comes and is an authority and a leader And a teacher, after 25 years, and you don't have one of the same of your children who have the same authority. We should think about that. There's something in our minds that we should be like, whoa, whoa. Think about that. It actually happened. And it never registers to us something's wrong with this picture. As a collective, we accept. This stuff is deep. And now our grandparents, the parents, the children, and now our grandchildren are calling that individual sheikh and looking at him as a scholar over all of us. 4 generations. The grandmom, grandpop, the mom, the father, the son, the daughter, now the grandchildren. Do you get my picture? That's something to think about. I want you to just like, and go back to our topic. Such a person is not even a scholar. It's a common person. But to us, it's given the status of scholar. How are we ever going to advance? If that is what is put on us. Think about that. I just like, it's something that these conversations become necessary. And if you wipe out Madhahib, schools, Ashari, Maturidi, and Aqidah, the 4 schools, you wipe out the sciences of Tasawwuf, because that's following, that's scholarship. You wipe that out, it's replaced with another madhab of common people. And that's how you wipe out our pursuit of scholarship. It's a methodology, right? Because at the end of the day, when that's done, we don't even know what scholarship looks like anymore. So we're not going to pursue it. Now look in our communities. You'll see this trend. Wipe out madhahib, no following madhabs. I'm on Quran and Sunnah. No, so you wiped out the madhahib, you wiped out scholarship with it, because the madhahib, the schools, were established on scholarship. So you replace it with another madhab that you don't call a madhab, which is a madhab led by al-awam, common people. And then that becomes the bar by which our children and us as a people wish to attain, which is not a bar at all. We stay while everyone else in the world is following madhahib, attaining scholarship, doing all the stuff that I mentioned, and we're left out of that. So we've been given another madhab That's a false madhhab in the name of not following madhabs. Y'all got the point? Now, this is serious stuff when you be honest. And when someone is talking to me, this is well, I talk like this because it's an undeniable fact if you think about it, right? It's an undeniable fact. You cannot argue against it. It's a reality. Now, do you want to accept the reality is another story. But this is, if on the ground, this is a non-debatable issue when you watch what's happening on the ground. Let me give you an example. Y'all ready to go further? Since we're only 6 days beyond the death of Malcolm X. In 1964, Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, let's deal with history. I'm going to show you this. 1964, put the date. 1964, right? Everybody put that date. Let's put Malcolm X. We could put Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz if you're offended. But let's just talk so everyone knows. 1964. Let me show you how this works. Y'all ready? I'm gonna show you an example. We in what year? 2024. So we're talking roughly 60 years. 60 years later, roughly. I like to think it's a try. $60 years later, we're talking about, right? In 1964, Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz had made trips to the Middle East, to Africa, in those areas. On those journeys, he received scholarships for his people. All right, since I want to, because everybody claimed to love Malcolm X. This stuff really cracks me up. Who did he receive those scholarships for? Who's his people? Because they were to give to his people. And that's who he gave them to, right? Who were those people? That's a question. I want everyone to answer. Come on, we love Malcolm X so much. Who did he? Those scholarships were designed to be given to who? If you know Malcolm X, you know Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz. Come on, answer. It's only two people. Right? Stop acting like it's taboo to speak the truth. That's our problem. We've been taught, don't say the truth. It's offensive. While the lies are not offensive. Speak the truth. Even if it's bitter. The Prophet ﷺ says, when hadith, قُلِ الْحَقْ وَلَوْ كَانَ مُرًّا. Speak the truth even if it's bitter. Speak the truth. Right? Right? Black people. So they can learn their deen. So he was given scholarships to the University of Al-Azhar, and at that time, the Islamic University in Medina. So he was given from right? So it was given scholarship, right? Scholarships to those two schools. Scholarships, which should entail that the person would go to study and become a scholar, right? That's the idea, right? That's why it's called scholarship. That was 1964. 60 years. That was designed, targeted to give to Black individuals. Now I ask the question, 60 years later, it takes an Azhar to go through the whole system 10 to 12 years. 10 to 12 years. To go through the whole system with all the politics and stuff that happens, it's hard. 10 to 12 years to complete all a PhD level, alamiya, right? The high level of scholarship at Al-Azhar takes 10 to 12 years, right? So you're going through bachelor's, master's, PhD. With that, if you're a good student, so you're going to study in the university and you're going to study in the masjid. So in the university is the regular curriculum. In the masjid, it's the classical curriculum with the scholars, right? That's if you want to maximize that, right? So after 20 years, we should have one scholar, right? 20 years. So by 1984 or 85, he had scholarships, not just one. By 1985, we should have had at least 3 African-American Azhari scholars or scholars from the Islamic University in Medina by 1985. I'm going to ask you a question. So that means at least 6 minimum, right? 3 and 3. Let's just give it. So that means we would have had 6 scholars by 1985. Question. In the Black community, did we have that in 1985? That's a question. I'm going to show you something. I'm showing you something. It's going to hurt, but we need to change it. But I want to point out something. Did we have it? And if we continue the cycle, by 1985, after 20 years, we would have had scholars. And in the midst of that, we would have sent another group. By 2004, we should have had another 6 scholars at minimum. So that would have given us, by 2004, 12 scholars. And in that process, by 2024, we would have added another 6. We should have 18 scholars, real scholars by now, if we did our work. $18. I just showed you the math. And that's at minimum 18. And I'm going 9-9. 9 from the University of Medina. And we're not talking about doctrine now. We're just talking about scholarship, information. We're not talking about what school is right. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about scholarship for right now, for the purpose of visualizing what I'm talking about. right? We're talking about visualizing. So we were talking about non-Azhari scholars in the Black community and non-scholars who studied at the Islamic University in Medina. If we did our business and we realized we had our mind towards scholarship, from the time of Malcolm X to our time now, we should have had, I'm talking about planning, I'm talking about thinking, I'm talking about being on it. Because he got the scholarship. So that's true. It's not a denied fact. What happened? You got to ask yourself a question. What happened? Why are we not even half there? Because we're not. We don't have 9 scholars. Not 9. Scholars, not layman students of knowledge. I said scholar. We don't even have 9. We don't even have half of that. I go even further. We don't even have half of half. We don't even have 5. You want the proof? If you just look at our African American Azhari graduates, they're not scholars. They're not the reference point for education. In fact, unfortunately, the reference point in America for Azhari teachers are non-Black. Even though we got Blacks who graduated from Azhar, they're not the reference in this country. That's a fact. As Azhari scholars, they're not. That's something to think about. That's something to think about. They graduated from Azhar, but they're not the Azhari references, not even for us. I want you to think about that. When you look at the Azhari references for North America, they're foreigners, meaning non-Black, immigrants, or white. I want you to think about that. That's for the fact. That's not me like debating that. And that's easy to prove. It's not like an assault. It's just something we need to think about. Move it over to the University of Medina. They got our learned graduates translating for Arabs who are not even as smart as them. Think about it. Translators. Not even as smart as those ones that translate, don't even have the minds of these guys, but they're translating for them. And in the Arab world, even in Saudi Arabia, they're not authorities. As scholars, they're my student, they're not the authority, not a scholar. Even in where they graduated from, they're not the authority as a scholar. I want you to think about this stuff. Because if we don't think about it, we'll keep repeating it, right? We'll keep repeating it. And that wasn't the intent of Malcolm X. That wasn't his intention for us to be like that. He was a man who knew that we were a nation of people, and a nation of people need its own scholars. Every nation has its own scholars. that are recognized by other nations as the scholars of that nation. Do y'all understand that? It's work that we have to do. But if that whole process is undermined by wiping out the thing that makes scholars, we're never going to have scholars. What is the system that makes scholars? These Madhaahib, these schools of thought. If you wipe them, the bar is going to be lowered and you're never going to produce scholarship. Hence, you will never be an independent nation. You'll always be the subject nation of someone who has independent scholars, which is our case. This is a reality. So I remember one of our teachers, he said, the destruction of al-Madhahib, our Sunni schools, is ultimately the destruction of Islam, the destruction of our religion. And you have to think of it in this broad sense, right? Wipe out al-ulama, wipe out al-madhahib, wipe out al-asanid, wipe out Islam. It's deep. But the name will remain, but the reality is missing. The name will be there, but what is there is not the reality. And we're falling into that. But every now and then Allah sends us a voice to awaken in us the ability to fight back, right? But it's a long journey. It's a long journey. It's a long journey. It's a long journey. And I know for sure we're not going to live to see it, because it's going to, if we talk about 60 years from Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, and this is what it looks like, do we have 60 more years? Us? Most likely not. Right? And are we working diligently to redirect our course? So when people say, why you keep talking about Aqidah? Why are you talking about? Because this stuff will lead us to a point, if we don't correct it, if we don't be diligent, it's going to lead us. Imagine what it's going to look like. Now you have those factors, and then you have the world attacking our children, the world attacking the society. We're going to be lost if we don't think about the situation and then make diligent or take diligent steps to fix it. Which the first step is to admit where we at, to realize what we're doing, to actually realize our enemies, and then start to work on it. Do y'all follow me? And I look at history. I study history a lot. And I think about it. I have a history class tonight. I have to give a lecture in Stockton University tonight. And the subject matter is the legacy of Black African American Muslims in Atlantic City. And as I was preparing for this lecture tonight, I saw it right on the ground. I'm like, man, we getting wiped out. I'm watching it. I'm watching it real time. I'm like, we got to do something. They did a number on us as a people. I'm like, we're getting wiped out. And you know what bothers me? Me personally, that most of us are so infatuated with other people that we don't even realize they wiping us out. Most of us are so infatuated with other people that we don't realize those same people are wiping us out. That's deep. That's like, think about that. That's scary. And guess what? They've been so successful at it that they don't even need to do it no more. We do it for them. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is real stuff. But guess what? The one who doesn't become the result of such activity doesn't pay them no attention. It's not happening to you. That's why. It doesn't matter much because it ain't happening to you. It's happening to us. So it means something to us. They don't. You know, they had a joint Eid here. Let me share this story with you. Because they actually had the guts to tell me this crap. So they want to have a joint Eid. Let me give you the picture of this area. Most of the masajid in Atlantic City and its surrounding areas are immigrants, not African Americans. Okay, let's get history. I said most of the masjids in Atlantic City and the surrounding areas are immigrants, not African Americans. Y'all got that? And you can do this by way of analogy. It happened in New York too. So it ain't just Atlantic City. But Atlantic City is a small city, so it's highlighted because it's small, right? So in Atlantic City alone, you have 4 masjids in Atlantic City proper. One, which is Masjid Muhammad, has an African American imam. That's me. Before me, we had an African American imam, Imam Qari rahimahullah ta'ala. Before him, you had an African American imam. And before him, you had, well, we would have gone back towards the nation then, but it was African American leadership all the way to 1954. So we're talking 70 years to this day of African American leadership. 70 years. Right? 70 years. Okay. Let me just give you a history lesson. When I took my Shahada, I was 10 years old, right? So that was 44 years ago. And 44 years ago, there was only one masjid in Atlantic City. And then there were some other offshoots later. They were all black, led by African Americans. I could trace it, right? Because I've been around long enough. All African Americans. Everyone who come to Atlantic City would have attended Masjid Muhammad. Everyone, no doubt, if you go back that far. And if you didn't, in the 80s, the early 80s, you would have went to another masjid. It was still African American leadership, right? So if you traveled in the city, you went to the Muslim store, it was an African American business. You went to where there was on the avenue, our main street, if you saw stands of Muslims selling, it was African Americans set up selling their goods all around the city. If you saw people in the neighborhood selling things, Muslims, it was African Americans. Fast forward to 2024. Is only one African American led masjid, right? Which is Masjid Muhammad. Excuse me, alhamdulillah. Even Masjid Muhammad today, if you come to Jumu'ah, it's predominantly immigrant, not African American. And it's the only African American led masjid in Atlantic City itself, right? Think about that. And our development as a community, we're not ready for successorship. We're not. We're not ready for successorship, which means, and they, unfortunately, this is real, are not trying to help us be ready for successorship. In fact, the way they move, it is just a matter of time. They hoping I die and they could take the masjid. That's some serious stuff to think about. Let that guy die, because y'all don't got nobody like that. That's some deep stuff. And let me give you an example of that to prove it. They got graduates from the University of Medina that are African American. Graduates. So go back to that Malcolm thing. Remember I talking about that Malcolm gave, as Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz had those scholarships? These brothers are not connected to it, but I'm giving you an example. They're graduates from the University of Medina, and they are not allowed to lead in any other masjid, even though those masjids agree with their doctrine. They're not allowed to lead. Nor are they allowed to lead in the black masjid outside. And they're graduates. Think about that. And they will hire imams that are not graduates, that don't have their qualifications but they won't allow them to lead. Think about that. So you got at least 3 that I know and 4 coming, and they not leading nothing. All of them African Americans, and they are not leading one masjid in Atlantic City. I want you to think about that. And they're natives from Atlantic City, but they're not leading in no masjid. What does that tell you? Just think about it. They're qualified, they're graduates, they speak Arabic, they're on your same methodology. I can understand Masjid Muhammad. We Ashari, Maturidi, I understand why they're not leading there because of doctrine. I understand that part, right? But what's the excuse in the other places? Because they have the same doctrine. Why the black man can't lead? I got Masjid Muhammad. I understand it's doctrinal issues, creedal issues. I got that. So we accept, but they still have a black imam. So a native. Why the others cannot have a black imam? I want you to think about this stuff. And this is my city. So I'm from here. I know it very well, like the back of my hand. So I know the people. I know who's the leaders. I know the imams. I know all that stuff. So for us, it's clear what it's like. We understand. So now, what do you think that's going to look like if we don't make a change 40 years later? If we 2064, what you think that's going to look like? And I can point it over and over and over and over again. I'm not shy about it because I look at my children, I look at my grandchildren, and I'm like, yo, if you don't do something, they hit. I see it. If you don't do something, they hit. There's no place for them. If you don't ring the alarm, bro, they hit. It's no place for them. That's something to think about. And now I just gave you Atlantic City. Now pay attention to your own city because this is going all around the country. Pay attention. And look honestly. Don't give yourself lower the bar and no. Put the bar where it belongs. Look at where you at in relation to and realize what you have to do. It's serious work. It's not a joke. We don't need to be dancing and it ain't no music. And we don't need to be smiling and it ain't no jokes. Seriously. We're in trouble. And we have the ability to change that. But we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest. And somebody might not like honesty. They may say it's bad adab. Oh man, you got bad adab, too straightforward. Isn't it the bad adab, the stuff I just showed you? Isn't it clear? It's not argument. You see it. That's watch. It's obvious. We have to. So when I'm talking about the Madhaahib schools, that's a system. That's a system that we need to change that because that's where the scholarship in our religion is at. We need it to kind of reverse. That's why when the difficulty for them to do that to Masjid Muhammad is this protection. They come up in there, you got to bring it. You can't come up there with no false madhhab. It ain't going to work. That's why they can't take it over. because the scale, the bar is up there. No, 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 no. This is what you got to be able to do. You won't take nothing over here. Not going to happen. We keep the bar high. Even if we don't meet it, we keep it so high that it's equal for everybody. It's a must. It got to stay up there. And we're going to push ourselves to rise to that bar, and we're going to make sure you rise to the bar too. It's going to be for everybody. There's not going to be no default scholarship. So if we all at the same level, we're going to treat each other at the same level. You're not coming here acting like you Sheikh Islam and you from the common people. That's not happening. Forget about it. So we're going to work together then. I know you don't like that part, but we're going to work together. And now if we work together, then now it's a fair field. It's even. But if you get us to think you're superior to us with false claims of scholarship because we don't know and you didn't give us access, then you're going to dominate us and take everything and leave us to the dunya and to kufr, really. No, not going to happen. At least not on our watch. And trust me, when you wipe out the Madhaahib, you wipe out these schools, you wipe out all of the tools we need for our liberation. I'm telling you. What we need as a people for our liberation, you wipe that out, you've wiped out our opportunity. And don't think that wasn't done by design. I know we're not that sinister, but there are people that are that sinister. It just ain't us. So we have work to do. And this is a part of it, educating ourselves. And first, we wake up the spirit, then we educate. Educating is going to take much more work than waking us up. Waking us up is difficult, but educating us is going to even be more difficult. But first, we got to wake up before we even get educated. We have to realize how important it is to get educated. Because they tricked us into believing we don't need education. We don't need to learn. We good. Quote a couple hadith, quote some verses, no system, no structure, just go ahead. We good. And that's the way they keep us where we at. Because they know that's a fallacy. So what they'll do is they'll teach their children, and then their children to be our sheikhs, and their grandchildren to be our sheikhs, and their great-grandchildren to be our sheikhs, and we'll be in the same condition. We've never produced anything that we need for us, except that it's under someone else. And no nation of people do that. Not one on the face of Earth, planet Earth, does that except us. We have to change that. And don't let nobody trick you to think that's racist. That's just fair. Because we make it, they'll say, oh, you're being racist. No, I'm being fair. Right? We're being fair. We're being fair. It's not racist. It's fair. And we ain't even worried about if you being racist. We're trying to wake us up so we can be treated fairly and build our people so that we can have a future that is just as bright as everyone else in the planet. All right, I'll stop there. These things are going long. But I'll answer some questions. If you have more questions, I just take the ones I got. If you have more, put them up, inshallah. So the first, a Muslim brother asked me if this is a black militant group. Of course not. We don't even do anything militant. What's militant? Education is militant. We don't do nothing else. Do we recognize the importance of us as a people? Yes. Do we shy away from that? No. That's why we have black imams around table. That's why we have the black lessons. Yes, we are a people. Everyone else has the same thing. They act like they don't do the same thing. They just so good at it, they don't even have to say it no more. It's just known and accepted. Yes, we own black time, most definitely. And there's nothing wrong with it. We are people who are concerned about our people, our tribe, our nation. We love ourselves. Yes. We love ourselves. And you love yourselves. I was listening to a dua yesterday from one of my own teachers. I gotta be honest. He was overseas. He made dua. He mentioned everybody but us. Honestly, that stuff hurts. He made dua, long dua, talked about everybody except us. May Allah help this one. May Allah help this one. May Allah help these people. May Allah remove the oppression from these people. May Allah remove the oppression from these people. But us, nothing. Not a word. And I just sat there and I was just laughing to myself. I'm like, and we don't see that. And guess what? I don't think he meant nothing by it. We just don't, we're not in the consideration. As if, because we don't have scholars, we don't have a bunch of, we're irrelevant in their concept and experience. We're irrelevant. That's not their fault. We got to make ourselves relevant. Right? That's our fault. We got to make ourselves relevant. We have to consider ourselves relevant like everybody else do. That's why he remembered them, because they always talk about their issues and put it out front. So you can't forget their issues, right? You can't forget their issues. They keep putting it out front. So we put our issues out front. So you can't forget our issues. Maybe if we talk long enough, we'll be included in the dua. Maybe. That's real. Wait, so are you arguing not to follow? No. You got to go back to the first class. No, I'm saying you must follow a madhhab, just a valid one, not an invalid one. But you must also realize that the invalid madhhab is a madhhab, and they made it our madhhab. You follow what I said? You must follow a madhhab, but a valid one. But an invalid madhhab is a madhhab, and they've made invalid madhabs our madhhab. Did you follow that? Did everyone understand that point? That's the essence of what I'm saying. You must follow a madhhab, but it must be a valid madhhab in creed, in practice, and in spirituality. But they've made invalid madhabs our madhab, and we following that, and that's why we in the condition we in. Because we're following invalid methodology, and that's why we ain't going nowhere. You follow? That's what I'm saying. Which one are you referring to? In terms of deviant groups, those who contradict the Asha'ira, Maturidiyya in Aqidah, those who contradict the Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali in fiqh, and those who contradict the people of Tasawwuf, that's who I'm referring to as invalid madhabs. Imam, are you on the road? I'm too old to be a scholar. I'm done. All I can do is motivate somebody. I'm finished. I don't even have the capacity. Scholar's done for me. That would have happened when I was younger, possibly. But I was just like us, trying to figure it out, right? No, that got to go for the young people. What it takes to be a scholar, I'm too old, right? Honestly, that's not humbleness. That's just true. I don't have the ability. I don't. But I do have the ability to help someone become a scholar, to point them in a direction, to check them, to make sure they do their homework, to make sure their grades are good, and I could do that. But me, no, no way. I don't even have the time. Do you know what it is to be a black imam? No, seriously. An African American imam that's a real imam leading a community, do you know what that entails? They got to be everything almost. They can't be no scholar. Right? No, man, a guy got to take care of the masjid, got to take care of families, got problems, got to get money, man, he can't be no scholar. You don't have time. And no way. Sorry, sis. I know, like, good thoughts. No, I ain't even trying. No way. The best I can do is to make sure that we have an environment that when we produce scholars, right, that they don't get destroyed, that we protect them. So we more like gatekeepers. So I'm on my road to be an excellent gatekeeper. That's it. Not a scholar, a gatekeeper. So when we get a scholar, we're going to be the ones to protect them and make sure they can do their work and not have to compromise and all of that. And we're trying to do that. Scholar, we looking for people like Muawiyah, 20 years old, 24 years old, 25 years old, stop playing games, start studying, knock it off with the nonsense, and let's get busy. And then in 10, 20 years, we have a scholar. If you're serious, we're looking at that. And that's why we need to support our young people who have the ability. That's our job. Stop being so stingy. Have vision. Sacrifice our money. Make sure, then have our elders make sure they ain't playing around, that they're actually doing the work. Make sure the imams is watching these students of knowledge so that they become scholars and don't remain students of knowledge forever. Somebody got to watch them. You follow my point? Do y'all understand this concept? Seriously. It's important. That's what Malcolm X's problem was. He had no support. He had great ideas, but no support with the ideas. It don't work. Ideas need to be supported, financially supported. You can have all the great, we love the speeches of Malcolm X, but we didn't like the work of Malcolm X because we didn't support that. We love the speech, nice. But when it came to putting our money behind that, no. So, hence, here we are, 60 years later, didn't get the result. We didn't support it. Do we understand that? So right now we have students overseas. We do. In the best of places, but we struggle to support them. It's a struggle because we got to support them. We got to take care of the masjid. We got to take care. Man, we have a lot of work to do. And then when we come to our people, hey, come on, we need this. We got a bunch of why and reasons why we can't support. So, yeah, the imam don't have time to be a scholar. He better learn to be a soldier. That's what the imam better be, a serious soldier. And he better be able to take the weight of 10 to 20 people. That's what the imam has to be in the Black community. He has to be. And that's not just, I'm talking about me, every Black imam who's a real imam, that's what he has to do. He has to carry that. He has to carry all that weight on his shoulders. And he can't make no excuses. And I'll talk about this and more. But listen, and the other thing, do me a favor. Don't undermine our efforts by trying to be an independent entity. What do I mean? We got to learn to work as a cohesive group. Some of us will go outside the group to do your own thing, and actually you undermine everything we're doing. Right? So I never recommend that you just put the money as a group, work as a group, and hold people accountable as a group. We're talking long term. You doing your own thing, or well, I'm doing my stuff that nobody knows about. You're not accountable. The person you supporting is not accountable. Nobody's accountable, and we don't get nowhere. We wasted our effort. I've seen that happen. So we don't need you to individually go reach out to the students and you support them. We need you to support the group effort, and the group effort will make sure that get done. Do y'all understand this concept? Don't undermine your own efforts. We're famous for that. Don't do that. It's extremely important to have vision. To have vision. Because we're quick to undermine our own empowerment and development with individuality. It doesn't work. People work as a group, and that's why they're able to accomplish stuff. We work as individuals, and that's why we get swallowed. Do y'all understand that point? Work as a group. Work under leadership. And move as a unit. That's right. Because you as an individual may not even know what's needed. You think you know, but you may not, because you're not on the battlefield. You're not in the struggle, so you don't know what's needed. The leadership knows what's needed. The direction. Don't do it yourself. You need to learn to work within a group. So you need leadership, you need followership, you need organization, you need structure, you need vision. What's needed to be studied? What is he supposed to be doing, right? Because a lot of times your efforts will go wasted because it wasn't in a system. Don't waste your efforts. Okay, I gotta go. I remind you of, still ain't up, is it? Nope. Let me put that, I keep forgetting to put the flyer up. This, see that? Let me remind you of today's Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. So this is coming up. I meant to put the flyer, I keep forgetting. Saturday, March the 2nd, in Newark, New Jersey, the Black Imams Roundtable will be in Newark at the Temple of Hip Hop, 55 Ludlow Street, Newark, New Jersey. Saturday from 10 to 6. It's the pre-Ramadan edition of the Black Imams Roundtable live in Newark, New Jersey. So I'll put the address up there so you can get a screenshot. There's the address. And there's the time and date. Everybody got that? And tonight, the Black Imams Roundtable will talk about an interesting topic, the importance of the Ash'ari and Maturidi methodologies in giving da'wah. It's very important, especially to non-Muslims and Christians. They're going to have that discussion. I'm probably going to be late because I have another event tonight, starting at 5:45 to 8 o'clock at Stockton University, Atlantic City campus. There is the program The Legacy of Black Muslims of Atlantic City. So 5:45, Atlantic City campus, the Lou event room. That's tonight. All are welcome. It should be a very, very intriguing conversation. May Allah reward you all, inshallah. And I told you, mark your calendars for the Islamic Unity Convention in Atlantic City, which is July 11th through the 14th, 2024, in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I want to put all this stuff up. This is a next major event. And the attendance flyers will be coming out, like preliminary flyers, because we're working on it through Ramadan, but already confirmed to attend this event is Imam Siraj Wahaj, Imam Zaid Shakir, Imam Talib Abdul Rashid, Imam Dawood Walid, Dr. Bilal Ware, the Black Imams, inshallah, and more are coming. I just still waiting for their confirmation. They confirmed, but it's not firm. So it will be a huge gathering. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thursday night is going to be an important night. Don't miss it. So the first night of the convention is probably going to be the most important night, right? Thursday night and Friday are going to be extremely important because it's going to give a historic and present context of where we need to go, where we came from, what it's like from people who lived it. That's why we have our elders there, because that's important. We need to take lessons and wisdoms and experience from our elders. It's extremely important. They're not going to be here that long. We have to consult them, learn from them, benefit from them, right? Don't miss it. It's an opportunity probably we're not going to get again. I doubt very seriously that we're going to be fortunate enough to assemble these type of people together at one time for this long. This is very difficult. It's not easy. So please clear your schedules. You don't want to miss it. It's like missing Islamic history in our communities. You don't want to miss it. And as far as the rooms, wait till I announce, and I'm going to do it within the next week or two, because we already have rooms blocked available at the location for a much, much cheaper price. So I know some of us like to be ahead. Just be ahead by clearing your schedule and getting your plane ticket. That I can't do nothing about, or however you get in here. But your room, wait. And within the next 2 weeks, we'll release the rooms, because they're going to be like $1,000 difference, at least $800 difference, right? So, inshallah, and we'll be putting out more and more and more about it as we get closer, because right now we got to be ready for Ramadan. May Allah make us reach Ramadan and bless us in Ramadan. Barakallahu bikum wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.